Like you said, I'm Rachel Holbrook, and I teach 7th grade language arts at Johnson County Middle School. And one of the big things I want to focus on when I teach, I want my kids to be better readers, to be more purposeful readers. In my presentation, I'll talk about the title of my action plan, or my research, my area of focus, the findings from research, my description of my action plan, my data findings, my analysis and results, and then implications for future use. And I'm not used to time presentation, so I'm going to go here. The title of my project was OneNote Close Reading and Annotation. And in case you don't know, OneNote is a software program by Microsoft, and it's kind of a digital blank sheet of paper. And you can access that, and you can take notes if you have a device that allows you to write digitally. You can type, you can add pictures, and that's available to all students on Office 365, and it's also on Microsoft Surface Pro 3, which is what I use my grant money with to buy. And we use the close reading strategy and annotation, and I'll talk a little bit more about those on next slide. Like I said, I wanted to focus on reading, and I tackled several reading standards. I focused on information and literary text 7.1, and that is where students have to cite textual evidence to support their inferences that they make. And that is huge on the end of your text. And so we wanted to help test scores by doing well on that. And to do that, I looked at close reading and annotation. And so when we read closely, I teach my students to read for a specific purpose. And that often means going back and rereading. And if you've been around middle schoolers, you know that they don't always like to read at all. So getting them to reread sometimes is a challenge. Annotating, I want them to take notes on the page, ask questions, be an active reader. So here are my objectives. I'm not going to read that to you. But basically, I wanted to use excerpts from short stories, poems, novels, informational text. And I wanted to focus on explicitly and implicitly drawing inferences. And I wanted my students to have 80% of my students demonstrate proficiency using the Achievement First annotation rubric. And Achievement First, that's 3 states in the Northeast United States. And they're all charter schools, but they have high college success rates. So that's why I chose that rubric to model with my students. And my research, of course, when I worked on my doctorate, I did a lot of research, so I wanted it to be research-based. I looked at the English Journal and what other English teachers across the nation were doing. Brown showed that personal connections facilitate valuable outcomes that result from reading and interacting with the text. And then the National Council of Teachers of English showed that there was a link between making personal connections with text and being successful readers. And that carried over in other content areas other than language arts. And we know that reading is very important in science and social studies, so that was a skill I felt that would benefit my students in all areas. Some of the research findings, these were suggestions they made for making annotations. Things like vocabulary, having students define words in the margin that they didn't know the definition for, rewrite, paraphrase, make connections to their life, retell, give an analysis, create a visual. And we did not do all of these things at once. You want to set a purpose, and so when we first began, we would take one specific thing like asking questions, and that would be the skill that we worked on. And so gradually as the year progressed, we were able to do more of these suggestions. A brief description of my action plan. I first measured how my students did with close reading and annotation skills. I gave them a piece of text, asked them to close read it and make annotations. I took those results, and then I used initial instruction for close reading and annotating. So I showed them what I wanted them to do, how to do it, and I modeled that process. I used the Microsoft Surface Pro 3 to take pictures of the text so that they could actually write on the Pro 3. And in case you didn't know, it's like a tablet. It's an actual computer, but it's kind of like a tablet that you can use. Then I measured the students' ability to use the close reading strategy and their annotation. So I wanted to know how they could do it without my help. I provided explicit instruction for students on how to use those close reading strategies. I also provided explicit instruction for students on how to correctly and purposefully annotate. Unless I set a specific purpose for them, they would highlight and draw all over the page without a purpose. I allowed the students to use the Microsoft Office Pro 3 to complete their text annotations. I introduced a new reading skill for each stage in the year, and so we had, And my data findings overall, students, once we did this, they were willing to reread passages. They were asking and answering questions in the margin on their own without me prompting them to do so. They were writing summaries and making inferences. And for 7th grade, that's the hardest thing for my students to do, is to make those inferences. They were consistently writing notes in the margin. They could accurately paraphrase passages. They were starting to write insightful, higher-level comments, not always, but they were starting that process. They can identify literary devices and figurative language, draw conclusions, and they were starting to analyze for author's purpose. That's where we are right now in my classroom. Some pros with this project: the students were enthused when they got to use technology. Anytime I could introduce technology, they were excited about that. It also increased student responsibility, because if you knew that you had to have the Pro 3 on your desk and you had to make an annotation, then you were prepared and you were ready to offer some insight. It also improved their close reading and annotation skills for all students, because everybody was required to do this. Some cons: I still felt that paper copies had to be necessary. If one person was annotating, others would want to write that down as well. We had difficulty in recording the voices. Students were shy and they were reluctant to record their voices. We were limited to one student using it at a time, since we just had the one device. And then it was very fragile, as you can see. If it was dropped, it would be broken. And these are some pictures of students with the device. Here you can see it's mirroring on the Wanda board. This is from our Greek mythology unit, and we were reading a text here, and you can see a little bit in the pictures on the next slide. Students actually highlight and made those text annotations. And when we first started using this, I would have it on a stable platform, and I would have the students actually come to me, or I would walk it to their desk, simply because if they drop it, it would break, and it was very expensive. And then here again, you can see the highlighting and the annotation. We had set a purpose here, and in this part they were looking for connections, and so you can see the different colors were a different purpose that we set. This is in the classroom. Again, the young lady on the left, she's using the Pro 3 to write on, and it's appearing on the Wanda board so that all students can see that and make those annotations on their page as well. And then I don't know if you can see the picture really well, but the young man there, he's really excited to have the device in front of him, so they were pretty excited to get to use that. Implications: if I were to do this again, I would definitely introduce it early in the year so the students would be familiar with it. I would want them to use OneNote on Office 365, so that way they're familiar with the program and it's not just relying on the Surface Pro 3. I would like to have multiple devices to use other than just the one. And then I've also, since then, started using Chromebooks, and I love how you can use different devices and have more available to the students. So I think that's a big thing, is that you have multiple devices and not just that one device in the classroom. And then this is a bibliography from my research. If you guys have any questions, I know I kind of rushed through this there.